Welcome back, everybody. It's the Real Big Three, brought to you by In This League. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. Joined, as always, by Jonas Nader at Jonas Nader on the Twitter machine from NBC Sports Edge, and Dan Bespris at Dan Bespris from hoopball.com. Fellas, what is going on?
Just chewing on a Tums, everybody. What's going on with you guys?
Well, I'm in a great mood. Can you guys guess why?
Gee, I wonder if it's your first topic.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just dive right in, Jonas. I mean, you have been waiting for this the entire season. In December, when the season started, the thought process was he's coming back in January, maybe February sometime. Here we are in late April. I almost said March, late April, and your boy finally came back. So let's hear about JJJ.
Yeah, so he's the number 9 player in the season. So me grabbing him in the 5th and 6th round totally paid off. He's crushing his ADP. He's winning people fantasy leagues. Like, what a call by me. Like, if you're not following me, what are you doing? You could have JJJ 5th round. Come on. But yeah, I'm just excited to have him back. Obviously, the Grizzlies completely whiffed the bat at the beginning of the season. He's going to be out a minute. Might see him back in January. Never told us that he had his meniscus fully repaired, which takes 8 to 9 months, as people know, not the usual 6 to 8 weeks like we saw with Porzingis. So very unfortunate, and it's a little unfortunate too that JJJ went along with it. Yeah, I'm going to sneak it. My return's going to sneak up on you guys. Didn't work out, JJJ. It did not sneak up on us at all. It is April 22nd.
Yeah. Dan's right. It kind of did, because I think everyone had forgotten about JJJ.
That's true.
By April. And then it was really weird. It was like, yeah, he's getting closer. He's getting closer. Oh, he's back tomorrow night.
Yep.
And it was, okay, cool. Here we go. So,
damn, did he look good, though? Did he look good?
Yeah, and the nice thing about this is you get, we kind of see this in baseball too. At the end of the year, like when a guy's coming off a Tommy John surgery, which takes a year as well, is, you don't see him until the end of the season, but because he pitched at the end of the season, that for next year, he's going to be ready to rock. Now, he still has time to help people through their playoffs right now, but if you drafted JJJ, the playoffs might have been a little difficult for you.
Yeah, so I just had a couple of notes on him. I got to give Dylan Brooks credit. He was right. JJJ is legitimately 2 to 3 inches taller. He's a legit 7'1". They played him exclusively at center. And
they were stretching him. They took a year. They were stretching him.
Did you guys see him rebound? He rebounded well. He actually attacked the glass for the first time I've seen in 3 years. It was impressive. A few offensive boards, looked really, really good. Had a monster jam, looked explosive. So obviously the Grizzlies slow roll in the rehab paid off because he looked explosive. The rhythm was there too. One note from Chris Harrington, a Grizzlies reporter, one of the best out there. He said he could tell that JJJ was in rhythm because when they're in practice, JJJ doesn't miss. But he said Justice Winslow was never making anything, so that was consistent there too. So he could tell a big difference. The rhythm never left him. So I'm super excited the rest of the way. Probably going to be 20, 22 minutes for another week or so, and then slowly get up to 26 range, probably where he stays. But one last note is they want him playing mostly center, and the reason that's huge is JJJ's block rate doubles as a center. So we're talking a per 36 line last year as a center was 24 points, 5 rebounds, 2.3 blocks, and 2.9 triples. So that's almost first round upside. So very excited about him going forward, obviously.
So a couple of things. I'm assuming he probably sits out back-to-backs. I would have to guess based on the length of the departure, which stinks because Memphis has a ton of games the rest of the way. That could have been really juicy. I think they still have like 35 games left in 4 weeks. What are they? I guess my question is, what are they going to do with Jonas Valanciunas? Because I believe he's still signed for another year, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's signed for one more year. So my reading on the situation is based on what I've read from the Grizzlies reporters, is that Valanciunas is going to get his usual 25, 26 minutes. They want him in that sweet spot. He's been playing 28, but they like him in the 25, 26 minute range. JJJ to get the rest of the backup center minutes, maybe some Tillman here and there. But yeah, they're going to be staggering them a lot. So probably 22. Let's say JJJ was completely healthy right now, no restriction. He'd probably be playing 24 minutes at center and 12 minutes at power forward if he was fully healthy.
Gotcha. So they will at least stagger them and stuff. And
yeah,
in the offseason, that's a whole off-season possibilities for him to potentially get moved to.
You know, I'm irritated about this. They should have just shelved him for the damn year because he's going to explode at least in one of these games, and it's going to ruin the post-hype opportunity we may have had.
Yeah.
Son of a gun.
But you're gonna get plenty of people that are just out because they bought this year, you know, and he completely. You're gonna get the overcorrection, and it's not going to be just people that bought him. It's going to be people that also saw what happened. So I'm betting there's a quarter of people in your league that are going to avoid JJJ just for the simple fact that he missed so much time this year, unless he looks absolutely amazing down the stretch, which is of course within the realm of possibility. So
yeah, I've read on Reddit that people have completely sworn him off. They're like, they're never going back to JJJ again after this year because of the mess of reporting. But yeah,
give me that sweet value. You guys can all write him off. Next year's the year when Dano jumps back into the pool.
I call it the overcorrection. It happens every offseason. The overcorrection. You instead of knocking a guy where you should because of his injury stuff, you knock him all the way off your list. And I know I do it. There was a guy in baseball this year, Gleyber Torres. I just refused to take. So because he screwed me last year, you know. Yeah, Yankees. Yeah, look at you, Dan. You know some baseball stuff. Not away.
Still in there. Still in that.
What's after JJJ, Jonas?
So I got a kind of a sneaky pickup. So Naz Reid had 24 points Wednesday, 7 boards, 2 dimes, 2 blocks, and 2 triples in 24 minutes. He's usually feasting when Cat sits, which he hasn't sat for a while. But the thing about the Wolves is they're going to a double big lineup lately. They've moved Juancho Hernangomez to the 3. They've played Jaden McDaniels to the 3 for stretches too. So they're going with some big lineups here. In the last 4 games, Reid is top 100 with 16 points, almost 7 rebounds, 1.3 dimes, 0.8 blocks, and 0.8 triples. A lot of Wolves reporters have noted too that he's lost like 20 pounds, and he's legit like a freakish athlete. Like he was a plotter coming out of college, but he's a legit freak athlete now. Like legit, they've compared him to like Zion Hobbs. Obviously, he's not there, but he's explosive, man. So they're really exploring that. They really like Reid. The front office is extremely high on him. So if you picked him up now, you're looking at 23 to 24 minutes production. Like I said, a 10th round player. But if you look at the Tankathon rankings, Minnesota is 16-44. There are teams like the Detroit Pistons who are 18-42, the Orlando Magic 18-41, OKC is 20-39. There is an all-out race for tanking this season, and Minnesota has a top 3 protected pick. So the potential for Cat, D, and Peace down the stretch makes Reid a no-brainer for me.
I like that.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I like that pickup, and you know, it feels like Naz Reid is a crusty old vet at this point, and he's 22. You know, he's still crazy young, and like you said, still developing and everything. So I really like this.
Yeah, he's something glitched out for me on this end. Hopefully, you guys can still hear me. Okay,
it said it for me too, but I hear you perfectly fine. So.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, he's really turned himself into more of a per minute monster than he had been in the past, and that. Not as surprising as seeing Thad Young do it on year 25 of his career to see someone do it in their second season, but there's something different about him. And maybe it's what Jonas is talking about with the athleticism improving, but when he's out on the floor, he's just grabbing at usage like it's going out of style. That was not a thing that I thought we were going to see out of this dude, but like in 19 minutes a game this year, he's taking 8 shots. That's a pretty big number for a guy who should, if everybody was healthy, have been like the 6th guy in the scoring pecking order, but he's just out there and he is chucking, man. He took 15 shots in 24 minutes in that last game against Sacramento. And yeah, he got hot. So when guys get hot, they take a few more. But basically any time he plays 20 minutes or more, he's taking 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 shots. And that's kind of a sweet spot number for a guy who also blocks from shots, gets a steal here and there, is an okay rebounder. It's going to be hard for him to dominate that with Cat still playing, and he will get some rest days in there, but isn't an awful foul shooter, mid-70s, so he's not going to kill you there. He's hitting about a 3-pointer a game now. Yeah, if his minutes trend into that 23-24 range, absolutely, he's someone to look at. More so for Roto, I think, than head-to-head. If I'm thinking back, I feel like Minnesota's schedule is a little wonky. They have like 3 games in the next 4 nights starting tomorrow, and then they play like 3 games over 10 days or something weird. But yeah, and Roto, especially if you find out someone's getting a night off, he has a really interesting upside these days.
Yep.
Love
And
that call.
Yep, I'm
Love
banking
that
on the
call.
tank as well. The tank has been ridiculous this year, so
Oh man, the teams are trying so hard right now.
What was the thing that you had the other night, Jonas? It was like someone for the Thunder was out, and your reasoning was Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, Lou Dort. Cade Cunningham's #1 pick for those of you who don't know. So I'm just having some fun with the Thunder reporting because it is bad. They're just making up injuries out of thin air, and I called Al Horford the world's most rested man. That got some love too.
12 in a row, man. They've lost 12 in a row,
Yep.
and they're not even competing anymore.
Really going for it. Really, yeah. I did see. What was it last night or 2 nights ago that the Rockets were officially eliminated from playoff contention? And I'm like, okay,
a month ago.
I mean, that was mathematically they were eliminated. I think 2 nights ago from playoff, from like one of those 10 seeds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the play-in game and all that nonsense. And I was like, yep, this definitely wasn't the second they traded Harden. It was right now. So,
definitely. To me, I don't know, like. When I look at the tank stuff, it really feels like the Rockets and the Thunder are the teams that are out there mishmashing lineups, almost with a goal of losing. The Magic just don't have anybody left. And the Pistons actually seem like they're still kind of foolishly trying to compete on a night-to-night basis. I feel like I don't remember what the plus minus is for Detroit, but I feel like of all the terrible teams, their average margin of defeat is way smaller than the other terrible teams on the board. They just keep losing these close ones. But that's actually the perfect way to tank because then nobody's on to you. And there they are at 18-42 in pole position, man.
Yeah. What a sneaky tank they've got. They only lose by 6 points and not double digits every night.
Yep.
What's your last one, John?
Competitively bad basketball team.
So we'll probably talk about this in a little bit too, but take advantage of the schedule next week. There are 3 teams with 5 games. It is the Thunder. It is the Dallas Mavericks. And it's one more. Is it the Raptors? Did I say the Raptors yet?
No.
Raptors, Mavericks, Thunder. Okay, so a couple sneaky pickups here. We learned this morning that Chris Boucher has a sprained MCL. We don't have a timetable yet. I'm assuming he's missing games. I would at least say a handful.
This is my first topic, by the way, so just roll this one together.
Yeah, sure. Couple pickups from Toronto. Keep an eye on. Freddie Gillespie. The Raptors really like him. He's averaging 2 blocks in 21 minutes as a wing, so really intriguing upside there. Another player to keep an eye on as you're going to laugh, but Yuta Watanabe has actually been pretty good lately. 12 points, 4 rebounds, almost 2 threes, 2 assists. No blocks, actually, but he's actually a really good shot blocker on the season for like 2 per 36. So Yuta Watanabe is a very sneaky add along with Freddie Gillespie. And OKC, I'm getting a lot of questions on Poku. He left the game after 5 minutes with an illness, but he's back. In the 2 previous games before that, he showed good multi-category upside, so I am holding him in a 5-game week. Darius Bazley is another player to consider, even though he's been kind of a flop this year. And then for the Dallas Mavericks, Dorian Finney-Smith, I feel like he's the player that no one's talking about this year that's quietly having a mid-round season. So top 70 over the last 2 weeks for Dorian Finney-Smith. And we know for a fact that Luka, Kristaps, they're going to rest at least once or twice next week too. So Dorian Finney-Smith, potentially a top 50 week in a 5-game week during championship week too, I should add.
I like those calls, man.
You could throw a lot of guys. You can throw a lot of guys in a 5-game week. I love it. It's because there's so many happening right now. And you guys know that I love the long stream registered trademark. Denver, for instance, starting tonight, they got 5 games over their next 7 days. Someone like a Facundo Campazzo would be someone you could pick up today and ride him through Thursday of next week.
Yeah.
If you hunt for, and there's a lot of them because all these teams had games postponed, so they're jamming it in, and almost every team in the NBA has at least one 5-game in 7-day stretch the rest of the way. That's something that everybody needs to be looking for on a scheduling chart, and just plan your pickups and drops accordingly. Like basically make every pickup lead into a 5-game in 7-day stretch for somebody. You can stream half your roster that way, and you can end up with 6, 7, 8 more games than your opponent on a given week. And even if they were a better team, you just overwhelm them with games played. This is so critical in head-to-head right now. And you can take guys that are like top 170 on a per-game basis and throw them in a 5-game week, and suddenly they're inside the top 100 for that stretch. So this is of utmost importance, and it's actually one of the other topics I wanted to talk about. But Jonas, I want to bring it around full circle. Are you in on Khem Birch in a 5-game week?
Yeah, sure. Like obviously a low upside player, but in a 5-game week, like we saw what he did in Orlando, barely anything. But if he gives you like 8 points, 8 rebounds, and a block, and he does that over a 5-game week, there you go. That's almost top 75. So I'm with you.
Yeah, I like Gillespie too. I'm glad you brought that one up. He's a field goal percent block monster, and it feels like he's going to get 22, 23 minutes with Boucher out for a little bit. I love 5-game weeks. You can get so weird with him.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you guys, Bogman, I hope you don't mind me just sort of
drive right into it. Yeah, absolutely.
It was kind of a nice segue because Toronto was my first one, and the Toronto discussion leads into my second topic. We're kind of fast tracking it here, but it's just I don't know about you guys, but I watch the games and I look at the box scores and I treat the season so differently right now. Where up until like 2 weeks ago, I was still watching for like rest of season outlook and upside and all these things that you're sort of game planning for, and now all of a sudden on a dime, it pivots. And I don't even care what's happening on a night-to-night basis almost as much as I care like what guys fit into this 5 and 7 mold. And on the Roto side, is there someone with a 1-game opportunity where the dude in front of them is out of the lineup? And I don't know. It's just become very immediate on the Roto side, and it's become
put the microscope on it. Yeah,
it's crazy. Like Bogman, I'll go to you. It just like the way that you analyze games right now, at least for me, has almost flipped to some degree. Like head to head, I was always streaming a little bit, but it was more about like keeping a team mostly healthy. And then in Roto, it was like, okay, well, who can I get who's going to be awesome, top 75, as many games as humanly possible? And now it's almost the opposite. So I don't know. How are you handling things right now? Because it's crazy.
Yeah, it's in both formats too, because, if you don't have enough games played in Roto, now you're just picking them up at the end of the year. Most people don't have that issue. Most people are trying to, maybe stagger because they are up on it if you have been paying attention the whole year correctly. But in head-to-head, it really, like you mentioned, and I think you brought this up a couple weeks ago too, just getting those guys that maybe 5 games in 7 days, not necessarily just for 1 week, you're picking them up for multiple weeks, and then you kind of make the marker of when you can drop them too. So it depends on how many streaming spots you have available on your team, of course. But, it's important to kind of get out in front of it and use however many pickups and drops you have every week. So if you have 3, you only need to use 2 for the week. Then you have that one for Sunday to make a move for your next week. So it's just really getting down into the microcosm and only focusing on what's going on right now and then what's going on next week. And that's it. Depending on when your championships are. For the 2 leagues I'm playing, my championship week is next week, and that's it. We're done after that. So right now I'm just trying to keep my head above water in both my leagues that I'm available in or, still alive in. So yeah, it's you really have to only pay attention to what is coming up right now. It's a little crazy.
It is crazy. Jonas, what are you doing these days? How are you living?
It's been rough. Like, for example, we have to go on the fly. Let's say Miles Turner's out indefinitely. You have to drop right now. With the way season's going right now, you have to make moves right now. You have to focus on the now, like you guys said. And I have 2 more takeaways from this season too. Even though this has been the most unusual season ever because we have a historic draft class coming up. That's why we've seen so much tanking. And then we have this historic compressed schedule where we're trying to fit in so many games in so little time. We were seeing historic amount of rest, injuries, players are breaking down. We heard Fred VanVleet say the other day, he said he voted for this, but yet now he's having regrets because they're exhausted. They're like done already. So my thoughts are, I'll be switching mostly to Roto leagues next year until I see a change. It's time. God. It's time.
Come to me, my oh my God, it happened. I'm so happy.
You look around, look at all the first round picks from this year. There's like 2 or 3 playing.
Yeah, it's not many. Harden's out, Trey's out, AD's been out, just came back. Did I say Trey already? Harden, Trey, Kawhi is another one down.
KD. Yep.
You're going to flip all your leagues next year, and then
Jaren
hopefully
Jackson.
we have a normal year, and it's not going to be nearly as bad, but that's my first subject. So
yeah.
What's next for you, Danny?
I don't remember. Who the hell knows what's going on right here? Oh, it was Anthony Davis. I just said his name. I probably should have remembered that. So I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago on this show that Jonas was with me on Team Maniac, where we said, should we buy low on Anthony Davis? And you and I were like, well, there's sort of like a niche pocket you could do it for, but why the hell not? Well, he's back. So I'm going to ask you, Jonas, I'll start. Should we feel good about our recommendation or not? I don't know if this is a win or a loss.
Honestly, I'm going to say yes, because even though like he shook his head like 4 times yesterday because he couldn't make any shots, right? Like there was obvious rust, but I got to say he did move around pretty well. I think that's the most encouraging thing I saw. And Vogel did say he's taking this minutes by game basis here too. So I'm actually okay with your call, Dan, because if he ramps it up in the next 2 or 3 games, you're going to get probably top 30 value here. I would say no longer a first round player, obviously with
I'll
the
take it.
But yeah.
Who would have thought 3 weeks ago he'd be one of the most outstanding first round picks because he's still playing,
actually standing. He's the
right.
standing.
He's still going. So
Unreal.
I mean, it's surprising, but I don't know, man. He's still going to sit out back-to-backs. Hopefully they ramp him up soon and he starts to look good, like Jonas said. Just knock that rust off and get going. So
I gotta look at the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers have a back-to-back for like 2 weeks here. So there's a nice little, and maybe this is why they gave him that long stretch after the Utah set to kind of get situated. Dallas is a team that doesn't run in transition, so that's kind of a good spot to pop. Okay, I guess it's like a week and a half they have a back-to-back.
Yeah, and no LeBron either. No LeBron for 2 weeks helps AD as well.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of usage there. The problem, I guess, is if someone traded for him and their playoffs started this week, and that's why we said like if you do this, it had to be you're a team that wasn't going to win.
Yeah,
and you were like you needed a fat shakeup, and maybe you get someone back who's going to be a top 25 guy that you spent a top 90 to go get. Well, we'll see. I don't know. Jonas and we don't get to talk about the Lakers that much on the show this year. So
I actually kind of wanted to talk about the Lakers for a second because I want to get your guys' take on Vivian Flores and this whole catfishing thing that went down. Did you guys? I
didn't see the whole thing. Tell me the story.
Okay, so I guess there was a lady on, maybe Jonas can explain it better because I just kind of went over it, but there was a lady who made a Twitter account, Super Lakers fan in 2009, and she went missing, right? So she's become a popular account over the last 12 years, and they said she's missing, and then they said she was found a couple hours later for something, and then people started to go, well, was she really missing? Has she ever actually been anywhere? Has anyone actually seen this woman? And I guess the answer is no. And it seems like someone has made up this account because even when whoever is running it said that, they had a picture of Vivian and it said, see here, I'm holding up a sheet of paper that has my name. The name was misspelled. So I don't know what the hell's going on with this. If she misspelled it on the paper or on the, Twitter account, I think the most likely thing is that somebody made this up, and everybody is pointing at this guy that was apparently doing a podcast with her or trying to start a podcast with her or something, saying that this dude and his buddy have been making the whole thing up, and it's been really weird. Jonas, do you know any more on it?
I have not even heard about this story to now, but really? I'm very intrigued. Yeah,
really?
Funny.
Okay, yeah. So I guess she was at, or whoever it was at the funeral stuff for Kobe, and had tweeted about that. But there were there were pictures of the event, but none with her in them too. Huh. So
that's all I know is that I was listening to sports talk radio. I'm in the car for maybe 15 total minutes, picking up my kid and the way back from preschool. And the local talk radio was talking about what the word catfish meant. And I was like, oh, someone got catfish. Now, okay, interesting. What is this about? And then there was I think I saw a tweet from a Josh Toussaint.
Yeah, that's him. That's the podcaster.
Vivian is miss. Oh, so that's who that is.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sucks. So somebody retweeted that into my account. I was like, that's crazy, man. Somebody's missing. But that's the last I had heard of it. Why I know this isn't really fantasy, but why this a 12-year con for what purpose?
I don't know. So it seems like a weird long con, that
the long con. I love that term.
And I don't know who, this could have been. All we know is that the Twitter account was started in 2009. It could have been named something different, and they renamed it over the last year or two to start this push. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It would be really funny if they're like, yeah, the email account attached to this is joshtoussaint@gmail.com. That would be hilarious. It's something so completely, completely obvious. It's just a weird catfishing story, which, we haven't really had one this major in sports since Manti Te'o's fake girlfriend.
Yeah.
So
that was amazing.
Yeah, it's been weird. Glad I could inform the Lakers fans on a Lakers subject going on here. But let me just ask you guys this: is it crazy this year? Is it actually crazy this year with the injuries and guys missing games, or is this recency bias? Because I feel like at the beginning of every year and at the end of every year, we always feel like, oh, this year's nuts. How the hell could this happen? But teams tank, teams rest their good players at the end of every year. So are we looking more into it this year, or is this actually a crazy year? Jonas, what do you think?
This is actually a crazy year. This is way worse than previous years. Way worse. Way worse. Like you said, there's 3 first-rounders playing right now. We had Jason Tatum miss a month with COVID and then play like crap because he was still recovering from it. This is not a usual year. So yeah, I am not like I'm still leaning towards Roto. I'm going to join Dan's side here.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah,
you're gonna love it. You're gonna get to next year the schedule will be normal. You're gonna get to late March next year, and you're gonna be just like leaning back on a pile of feathers and money because it's not gonna matter what guy on your team goes down for 2 games Wednesday through Sunday in your head-to-head matchup. Because my Roto team, I have a Roto team with Kawhi Leonard and Dame on it, who were both out for a week here. That would have completely obliterated any chance that team had to win in a head-to-head playoffs. And instead, all that happened is that I slipped like 1 point in Roto, and I was able to go, someone's coming back. They're going to come back. Everything's going to be okay. And you just plug someone in. You pick somebody up. Everybody's cool. I worked really hard all year to be in this top 3 position. And just because my guy decided to sit out this week, I'm okay. Meanwhile, over in head-to-head land, my team with Zach LaVine and Trae Young, I couldn't even speak to my wife for a few hours the other night because I was just head in my hands. What am I going to do? Lost 2 of my top 3 picks on this team. I'm done. What was the point of the last 4.5 months? It's just cooked because he landed on someone's foot on a floater. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, look, a couple things here. Number one, next year is actually probably going to be a good year for that too because of the Olympics. It's all the top players in the NBA going
and short off season too.
And another shorter off season. So, it could definitely happen. But what I'll say is, if we were in the playoffs and all these guys are getting hurt, it does reflect reality, which is what fantasy is trying to do.
But it's not the playoffs though. The real playoffs in the NBA, these guys play.
Yeah, I agree.
That's true. Also, we can always end seasons a little earlier. This is kind of the strategy that I've wanted to go through with baseball for a long time because the baseball season is an absolute slog. And once you get down to, September, really, if you could end it at the end of August, I think it would be perfect because it's not as bad anymore because they don't have September call-ups, but that last month with September call-ups with teams tanking, they're skipping guys in the rotation. They're having guys take a day off in the lineup here and there. That's the same thing that's happening here, but it's more because of the short off season and no ramp up time and all that stuff and more guys getting hurt. So I think next year it'll be more normal, but it won't be back all the way to normal.
I want to agree with you on the baseball front, by the way. 162 games is a ridiculous number of games for anyone to play and anything ever.
And we all, the fantasy football season always ends a week early too because teams rest their starters going into the playoffs and everything. So why don't we have that in basketball, right?
The NBA should come back their games too. The NBA shouldn't be more than 60 games. I'm sorry. I don't want to watch Lakers versus Wizards 3 times. I want to see the Lakers versus Clippers twice. Primetime games, national TV games, more attention on each individual matchup, less resting, less injuries. Players aren't loaded as much, but here the reason they won't do it is because of money.
Money.
Yeah. The advertising dollars and all that stuff. It'll never go. I mean, the NFL, the most brutal sport in the world, where everyone has CTE when they leave it. Just added a game. Right? Yeah. So
I heard about that, and I don't know anything about it.
right, right, exactly.
That
So
seems dumb. I saw it, I went, that looks dumb, and then I kept going with my day. So let me push back on the sales pitch to shorten the season. This year in particular was only a 72 game regular season anyway. So if you shorten it in head to head, you have like 15 weeks of actual.
It would have been 60 games, just like Jonas just suggested. Come on,
that's true.
It would have been perfect.
Yeah, I just
but the short off season really screwed everything up.
Yes,
it did. Yeah,
they shouldn't have started till January. They should have extended the season, into the summer a little bit more. It just makes sense. You're only up against NFL playoff games at that point. So
there's like legitimately one guy in the NBA that played deep into the bubble that isn't dead, and it's Jokic.
Right. Yep. And by the way, that's a perfect transition to my next subject is next year. Is it Jokic or is it Curry as a number one overall pick? Because I think Curry has been number one over the last month. Jokic has still been a top 10 player, of course, but we know about the, normal slow starts for Jokic, and maybe he's going to be on a different training regimen because he's been so good. And he's, they're both MVP candidates this year too, but what do you guys think? Are you going Jokic or Curry next year? Dan, I'll start with you on that one. Or is there an outside guy? I mean, to me, it's between those two.
Oh, man. I'll go Jokic just because he's a pillar of durability that I realize it's always like they are until they aren't, but he hasn't jumped in his NBA career, and that eliminates a lot of the risk for these guys. And he's just sort of like, he has this rugby cushion about him where you feel like his whole body, I'm sure you guys have seen it. His whole body is just covered with like fingernail scratches and red bruises at the end of every game. And by the next game, they're all gone.
Yeah.
Like he just gets slapped and whacked all night. And then 2 days later, he's like, yeah, I'm fine. Like everything's good. He just has this plushness to him that is, it's a good thing now because he has lost that sort of extra weight that was slowing him down, that it tends to be a part of his slow starts. I'll go Jokic because I feel like you can bank on him playing anywhere from 2 to 5 games more in an 82 game season than Steph, and that's probably your difference.
Yeah,
Jonas,
Jokic is still peaking. Yeah, I agree.
Is it somebody else at all, or is it just Jokic? Is it only between Jokic and Curry? Is there a third guy in there, Jonas?
I would throw Harden in the conversation still. I think Harden has another top 3 year in him. But other than that, I think AD is kind of like in that 4th, 5th range, and Cat is right there as well.
Okay.
But I want to add one more thing.
Who would you go with?
I'm going to go with Jokic. I still think he's still scratching the surface, whereas Curry is probably peaked, right? Like, obviously, what he's did over the last 10 games is stupid, ridiculous, but I think he's peaked.
All right. So my last one here is, and this is kind of to lament because I hated the trade last year of Capella going to the Hawks. Luckily, in my dynasty leagues, I own him in spots because he was a rocket and he was so good. But he has played, for the season, he ranks 25. Overall, the last month, he's top 10. He's 10th. So what range do we see Capella falling in for next year, Jonas? Is he a top 3 round pick? Is this a little too inflated? What do you think about Capella going into next season?
So he's 20th overall. I think he's going to be overdrafted next season because this is the only season he's been remotely healthy, and he's still missed some time too. Like he's had his Achilles injury flare up 3 times. His back's banged up. His knees are sore. I don't think I'd go towards him until late round 3, early round 4. I think he's going to be overdrafted next year based off this year.
Do you agree, Dan?
I do. Yeah. He's played in 52 games, which is crazy. His missed games have really been sort of clustered in 1 or 2 at a time, and that's been a big feather in his cap. So his total value actually matches up pretty well with his per game numbers this year. I'd probably go 3rd round on him. I think maybe I'm just a hair more bullish. I targeted him in a couple of spots this season, and that ended up working better than I expected. I thought he'd be playing like 28 minutes a game, and I think he's at 31. So there was a little extra juice there. I don't know where he gets drafted though. That's one spot. There's a weird reticence. To me, he's kind of beginning to fall into that like boring, and he shouldn't, because he's had these 2020 games that people should be paying attention to. But
like
he doesn't score a ton.
Yeah.
it's that same kind of thing where I think he may fall into a little bit of the boring category, and so he'll probably always get that not the next shiny thing stuff. And so maybe you get him in that Chris Paul range, which is mid to late third, and you're just like, all right, look, even in a worst case scenario, he probably ends up somewhere near here. And maybe he plays in 50 out of 55 or out of 60 games, and he's actually slightly above that or something to that effect. I think those guys are actually, I didn't mean to do this, but I think Chris Paul and Clint Capella are actually 21 and 22 on a per game basis right now. But Chris Paul was the same story where he was amazing last year and he didn't move up at all in drafts. I couldn't figure that out. And he's number 6 by totals this season. So
has he missed a game yet? I don't think he's missed a game. Has he missed one?
I think one. I think it might have been one. But he's been amazing. And I think there may be a little bit of that with Capella next year where he's just like, people have moved past him, even though he's still pretty good. And even if he misses,
well, he's still going to ruin your free throw percentage, or at least not help it a lot, because he's shooting right around, I think, 58%.
Yeah.
Let me see.
50 in the first round, you can cover it pretty well, though, as long as he's your only one.
Right, exactly. So, but same thing with Gobert. You know what I mean? These guys ruin, or you're either gotta have good free throws from everybody else, or you're building a punt free throw team. So he is kind of still a specific guy. But I mean, Collins has got to be gone in the offseason, right? They got to flip him, right?
I actually think they keep him now.
Do you? Okay.
I think they keep him now. I think he'll settle for something closer to the $80 million range. Like he wanted 100, but I think he'll settle for 80. Are you
taking Collins or Capella first next year?
Not too bullish on either, to be honest. I'm going to look for the Zions in that range, the JJJs in that range, the Miles Turners in that range. Not too interested there. I think they kind of limit each other's upside a little bit.
If I'm going straight head to head, I'll take Capella over Collins.
Me too.
I don't know where we're putting them, but if it's just like, hey, here's your pick, whatever it is, you can only choose these two guys. I'll take Capella.
Yeah, same for me too. So I think this season really proved it, and that's it. That's all we got. We got, I think, maybe 2 more shows left till the end of the season.
We got to do one. We got to do a postseason. I don't think we did one last year. We got to do like a wrap up after the season ends show where we can do all of this type of talk. Like, where is Capella going for you? That stuff is great. That stuff is that stuff is my food after the season.
How about we set up a mock draft?
The listeners. I like way that. Too early mock. That's beautiful.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely do that, and then be on here to talk about the mock. So that is a great call, Jonas. So, but remember, you can follow us all on Twitter at Bogman Sports, for me, at Jonas Nader, at Dan Besbris. Jonas, what's coming up over at NBC Sports Edge this week?
Waiver wire column every Sunday. It's more important than ever. I also do a sneak peek preview on Thursday with the deeper ads too, so that's even more important for streaming. And Twitch chat will resume on Tuesday.
Danny, what do you got going on at Hoopball?
I am in stream mode, man. My podcast has taken a very weird left turn into all stream discussion all the time. Every day, breaking down your roto streams, which I'm calling streamers of opportunity, and your head-to-head streams that I'm calling streamers of schedule. And that's it. That's the whole game right now, is like your top guys and that. So go listen to my show, Fantasy NBA Today, Monday through Friday. Come, and it's all, everything I do, I tweet out over this bad boy, Dan Besbris. It's a name. I know. Just Google Dan, Google Dan from Hoopball. That's easier.
I will have to check the schedule for next week too, because I will be live streaming all 3 days of the NFL draft, a big part of what I do over at ITL. So I believe that Friday the draft doesn't start until 4 our time, Dan. So we should be fine to get this show in.
You gotta tell me when NFL things.
I just gotta double check because I'm pretty sure what I don't like is that day 3 starts at 9 a.m. our time. So I have to be awake at 8 a.m. to be able to not roll right out of bed to stream. So, yeah, well, okay. That is, no, it's breakfast time for me.
How many shares of children do you have, Bogman?
Zero shares of children. So I am not waking up that early. So, but that is going to wrap it up for us. We will be back next week. Take it easy and good luck in your matchups this week, everybody. See you.